Ah, Smart Water, now in a sleek can.
This feels cool, literally.
Perfect for social gatherings and on the go.
Should I start wearing turtlenecks?
One sip at a time, friend. Smart Water cans, for those with a taste for taste. Get yours today.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Well, we're in that week, at the end of May, where the weather in the capital region and the Hudson Valley sometimes relapses into something that feels a little more like fall or even winter. Hopefully, more seasonally appropriate weather here in the region awaits on the other side of this Memorial Day weekend. Here's to hoping. I'm Jessica Marshall with another episode of The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. We're going to start this episode off with one of our favorite annual segments. The Times Union Best of contest results are in, and our readers, and hopefully our listeners too, weighed in earlier this year on their favorite people, places, and things here in the capital region. Joining me now to go through some of the highlights of this year's results is new managing editor for features, Sara Tracey. Before we even talk about Best Of, let's talk about you, because you are now our new managing editor for features, which is so exciting. We talked to Gary 2 or so weeks ago. It was his last week. Gary Hahn, of course, was our former managing editor. He has retired, and you have stepped into the role. So tell me how do you feel?
I have. It's very exciting stuff. I've been full-time with the Times Union now since April of 2017. So I am in my 8th year here. I'm really excited to bring our features and sports journalism kind of into the next generation. And we've got a great team to do that with. So very excited. More to come.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll be dragging you back on this podcast multiple times.
Drag me as much as you need.
All right, well, let's talk about Best Of, because that is the first thing that has come down in your tenure. So, you know, every year we kind of do this and we talk about like the top categories and the surprises and, you know, the new things that have happened. So give us like the 35,000 foot view of Best Of this year.
Sure. We had just under 50,000 nominations for this year, and we had a total of just over 226,000 votes.
Wow.
Which is enormous. When you're clocking on, you know, 250,000 votes in I think it was either a 2-week span or a 10-day span. Mm-hmm. That's an enormous amount of folks that are coming to us and telling us, these are my favorites. You need to know who I love in this. I'll tell you an interesting story about our best pizza winner.
Oh, let's hear that.
So, best pizza winner. We've usually had, Case Pizza ran that category for so long.
Case Pizza, of course, is in Rensselaer County.
Yes. Averill Park, favorite family-run place. People love going there with their kids. This year, I come back from maternity leave. This one-man operation called Pizza by Plu doesn't even really have a storefront. Dominates this category by more than 500 votes.
Wow.
Above the second place, which was DeFazio's and Troy. So Case Pizza is in 3rd place this year.
Oh, that's a big change.
It's a change. But Pizza by Plu, one-man operation, makes only a few dozen pizzas a week, has strategic drop-offs where people need to meet with him to pick up their pizzas.
Whoa.
Fascinating stuff.
That's not a business model, or at least for a pizza shop, that I've ever heard of.
No. But, I mean, people are obsessed with it. People are obsessed with him. But you can understand it. He's excited. People are excited for what he's doing with his pizza. Best pizza is a category that is tried and true in Best Of. And for it to be taken on and won by somebody who is new to this game in the capital region, at least with this particular business, and to have won by 500 votes.
Wow.
Is just enormous. Good for you, Pizza by Plu.
Seriously, I gotta try it now.
Yeah.
All right, so what were some of the new categories?
Sure. One of the new categories that I think was really interesting in terms of how it was voted on was Best Thrift and Vintage. That was in our shopping big subcategory. And we have seen this trend where people are going more to secondhand. They are thrifting more. They want to not add to the, carbon footprint. So they are looking for, what has been previously loved and how can I take it in? So new category this year, we had a 3-way tie for first.
Whoa.
I don't think in my 8 years working on this, I've never seen that happen. So
You've seen ties, but not 3-way ties.
Not 3-way ties, which is just it was amazing seeing that number come up 3 times in that category. So that was a 3-way tie between Just-in-Time Consignments, Empire Estate Sales, and Plato's Closet in Albany.
Okay.
And so people really love those secondhand thrifting options, which is really fun.
Yeah.
Something that is new this year, but is kind of it's a zombie category. It's something that has come back from the dead for our categories. And these are ones that we haven't had since COVID. So we brought back the live show categories in our entertainment umbrella.
That's huge.
It is huge. Well, we thought we took it away for COVID because, of course, people aren't going out to live shows. Right. Why should we highlight something if people want to, conserve their health and all of that? Absolutely.
It'll just make us feel sad on what we're missing out.
I know. But now we've brought them back because people they're craving those live entertainment opportunities.
Yeah.
So best concert of the past year, Bruce Springsteen, the boss.
Oh, yeah. We did a podcast episode on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got Bruce Springsteen. He won for best concert of the year. Best theater performance. I mean, if you want to talk about something completely different, A Christmas Story.
Oh.
So the Fragile, the leg lamp, everything like that, that was people's favorite live theater performance of the past year.
Wow, it's a major award.
It's a major award. Another new category that we thought people would really have fun with was Best Place to Bring Your Dog. That was part of our Best of the Rest umbrella. There are so many parks, there are so many places to board your dog, doggy daycare, all of that. People love their furry friends.
Yes.
How can we get them involved more with these categories? So the best place to bring your dog, if you come to the Times Union, it is a hop, skip, and a jump away to the Crossings in Colony.
Aha.
And one of our writers did a really sweet Q&A with a man walking his dog in the Crossings of Colony.
Love it.
Just to talk about why that park is so special to them. So that was that new category.
That's real, in the field. Yeah.
The very important journalism you're getting from the Times Union.
That's amazing. So, all right. So those are exciting new categories. And I'm going to put in a plug right now of next year for best place to take your cat.
Oh, yes.
Maybe you make it a very small subset of the population, but
let's run with it. I love it. I have seen people with the little cat backpacks.
Yes.
Let's do it. Why not?
Yes, your cat or your ferret or some other
your
animal.
Lizard. Come on, let's go.
All right, so those are the new categories, but we have some. We always come back to this every year because to me it's the most exciting. There were contentious categories, like favorite categories that where it came down to like the neck and neck of difference of 5 votes or 1 vote or whatever. So take us through some of those because they happened, right?
Absolutely, they did. And when we're kind of on the back end watching the nominations and votes come in, those are the ones that get us really excited because we can see behind the scenes these 2 or these 3 are really decking it out. So those are the ones that we usually go back for behind the scenes. So in our services umbrella, there were several that won by just a handful of votes. They don't sound very exciting, but they are absolute necessities,
Sure.
which is something that you get in our services category.
Right. A lot of people who are looking for services will come to the best of to see, who's winning.
Absolutely. So pest control. Pest control is a category that we brought back about 3 years ago. Thomas Pest Control is our winner. It was our winner this year. It was our winner last year. It was the winner the year before. But it was very, very close with Meerkat Pest Control Services. Gotcha. Only a couple dozen votes between the 2 of those. And then orthodontics. I don't know how you were as a kid. I had a dozen years of orthodonture when I when I was in school. So, a category that is very close to my heart or my teeth. Yes. Adirondack orthodontics. Again, a perennial winner in this category. But they only beat our second place, Ephros Orthodontics, by 10 votes.
Whoa.
So people, when they're doing something like best of, sometimes they think, my vote could never count in these tens of thousands of votes that we get. Like I said, we had over 225,000 votes this year. Some people might think, my vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. When we are in these categories, when you are it's a razor thin margin of 10 votes. Your voice matters in this. Take it as seriously as the election. I'm going to say it right now.
Well, more people vote in this than they do in the actual local election.
They do. It's, yeah, sad but true.
Sad but true, but this is also important, especially when you're talking about services that people use in the community. So
yes, right. Again, this is such a community-driven effort, and it wouldn't be the brand that it has been for... This is 28 or 29 years.
Wow.
The Best of brand is one of the biggest ones that the Times-Union has. It is one of our biggest connections that we have to the community. And we want people to realize that when they are voting in this, their vote absolutely matters. It matters not only to us because we love to engage with the community. It's a huge effort on our part, but it makes it so worth it when you see people seeing, oh, well, I don't know, I want to try a new burger place, and where are all of my friends going? Where's all the Capital Region going? And that would be Jack's Drive-In, by the way.
Yes, well, saw that one coming.
But that's why we love this Best of so much, is we hope that this becomes a community resource. We want it to matter to the community. It matters to us, and we are in your community as well.
You can see all the results of the Times-Union's Best of the Capital Region 2025 on timesunion.com. And you can also order a lovely magazine copy at the Times-Union shop online. We're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we're going to discuss something that may not be easy for some listeners to hear about. We're going to talk about baby Moses, a story that has galvanized the Capital Region for 27 years.
Why is healthcare so expensive? What's happening with climate change? And are elections safe? You can find answers to those questions and a lot more with Capital Confidential from me, Dan Clark. I give you the latest news and analysis from the state capitol and beyond. Sign up now at capitalconfidential.com. That's capital with an O, confidential.com.
"12-year-old Jaliek Rainwalker vanished without a trace from a small upstate New York village on a cool November night in 2007. His adoptive parents say he ran away. Police believe he was murdered, but a body has never been found, and a suspect has never been named.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, okay, all right, but you don't want to talk.
Then when I learned they were trying to undo the adoption, that's when I learned that this story was very complicated, well, a lot more complicated than I even thought.
Almost 2 decades later, the case remains unsolved. I'm Jessica Marshall.
And I'm Wendy Libertar.
In this podcast from the Times-Union, we take a deep dive into the mystery of this missing child and try to find some answers.
So have you come to terms that Jaliek is probably dead?
Yes. Okay. I feel that he was killed on November 1st, 2007.
Available now, wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're enjoying this podcast, take advantage of all the Times Union has to offer and support our efforts to bring you award-winning journalism by becoming a Times Union subscriber today. Go to timesunion.com/subscribe.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. I'm Jessica Marshall. I have to issue a rare warning here. We're about to go into a story that may be very disturbing for some listeners. So please listen on with care. 27 years ago, city landscapers found the remains of a newborn infant in a flower bed in Albany's Washington Park. Police would later determine that the child was murdered shortly after birth. The city named him Baby Moses. They gave him a burial presided over by then-Mayor Jerry Jennings. For 26 years after that, though, investigators were unable to locate the mother or anyone who may have been responsible for the crime. Flash forward to 2024, when investigators used DNA to verify that a suburban mom named Keri Mazzuca was the child's mother. When questioned by investigators, Mazzuca confessed to killing the newborn, setting his remains on fire and leaving them in the park. She subsequently pleaded guilty to manslaughter and evidence tampering, and in February, she was sentenced to 25 years in prison. The Times Union filed a Freedom of Information Law request to obtain video of Mazzuca's confession to police. The Albany County District Attorney's Office sent it to us this week. We've published excerpts of it on timesunion.com.
So I appreciate you coming down here. I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on here, okay? You might be able to help us out with some things. We kind of have a little bit of a mystery on our hands, I'll say, okay. That we're trying to sort out. So you said you have...
I personally found it very hard to watch. It's a 3.5-hour video in which Mazzuca repeatedly lies to police.
How many times have you been pregnant?
2.
2?
Yes.
Okay.
Very easy, very...
Easy pregnancies?
Mm-hmm.
No issues?
No.
Are you familiar with this area at all?
The detectives are polite at first. They even make jokes. And Mazzuca appears to be at ease. But after a little less than an hour, Detective Rob Lawyer turns up the heat.
Say you are mom, right? I'm not saying you are, but say you are, right? And we bring you down here, and you say, no, I'm not the mother. I was never pregnant then. What, if that's not true, like, we can figure all that stuff out, right? And then what happens is we go, hey, guess what? We found this baby dead and burned, and the mother said she's not the mother. What's that scream to you? If you're...
I did it. I did it.
You did it?
I did it.
What happened?
The confession is a jarring moment. And as the questioning continues, for the first time ever, we hear Mazzuca describing what happened and what she did in her own words.
We need to know. Hello?
Yes.
Yes what?
I suffocated the child.
With what?
To put in the bag.
Put it in a bag? Did you cover?
The Times Union's Brendan Lyons has covered the Baby Moses case extensively over the last few decades. After we got the confession video in the newsroom, he called up former Deputy Albany Police Chief Steve Reilly. Reilly had responded to the first call that came in about the discovery of the child and followed the case until he retired. I'm going to let Brendan take it from here.
Hi, this is Brendan Lyons. I'm a managing editor with the Times Union in Albany. And joining me today on the Eagle is Steve Reilly, a former City of Albany Deputy Police Chief who retired in 2013 and had worked on what was one of the department's most difficult cold cases on record, and it involved the 1997 discovery of an infant in a flower bed in Washington Park, and it would take decades for that case to be solved. And Steve, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Sure. And so I'm just going to set the stage a little bit. Back in 1997, it was a late summer day, and at the time, I think you were a detective sergeant and were on a call to Washington Park, where some city workers had discovered an infant's body wrapped in either a pillowcase or a blanket tucked in a flower bed. Tell us a little bit about that day and how it hit you and the department, the reaction and the investigation that ensued from that.
So I was a detective, and I was riding with Detective Ron Matos. We were working the 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. shift. I recall it being pretty quiet, and then the call went out. I think it was for a male unresponsive or an infant unresponsive, something along those lines. And it is exactly as you described it. It was a beautiful morning. We arrived in Washington Park at the Moses Monument. There were some City of Albany park workers there. They were very upset. And I recall speaking with each of them, of course, and they had conveyed that they thought initially that it was a doll, that they had come across a doll as they were getting ready to do some planting and things like that. So, and they themselves were obviously overcome with emotion once realizing that it was actually a baby.
There was a few clues, right, of sorts. There were some matches. The pillowcase or whatever was swaddling the baby had been scorched, and there were some burns to his back, head, and neck. But as you know, a forensic pathologist, Michael Bodden, later determined that this baby had been born alive and had breathed before it was probably smothered, is what they suspected. I know that this became sort of a side job for you, if you will, in the department. Just tell us a little bit about some of the efforts that went in to try to find this person. I know they weren't successful, but back then, this is before DNA has really come of age. This is before ring cameras are on every other residence in the city. And so this is at a time when gumshoe police work is really the only way to without a break, to try to solve a case like this, right?
Absolutely. I recall vividly, actually, the wooden stick matches. He appeared to be wrapped in what I had always believed to be a pillowcase, and I always thought it more of I thought it was like a hospital kind of or institution kind of material. I wouldn't have called it like a high quality material, but that's how I recall it. And I recall what I believed was a pillowcase, what had been burned, not completely by any means. And as you said, Brendan, he had burn marks on his back, on his legs. I can still remember his face like it was yesterday.
And were the efforts at that time relegated to knocking on doors, checking trash bins, that sort of thing?
Exactly. We, a team of detectives went out, began canvassing the neighborhoods. We went to area motels in Albany, Colony. We did a lot of door-to-door, interviewing with people, asking questions, things like that. That was a lot of the initial work, checking with the hospitals and things like that.
I see. And meanwhile, the discovery of this dead infant galvanizes the community, and I remember Mayor Jerry Jennings had officiated at his funeral in Graceland Cemetery. The baby was buried, and people had named him Moses Washington, right? Because as his headstone says, Moses Washington, citizen of Albany, child of God, because he had been found in the shadow of the Moses statue in Washington Park. Despite the best efforts, years go by, and I recall that this wasn't something that you let go, right? It wasn't a homicide that a year later nobody has forgotten about. Tell us a little bit about how you tried to keep this investigation alive.
It wasn't just me. There was quite a few people, and we were contacting the schools. We were trying to get attendance records, if possible, for the local colleges to see who may have not shown up for class.
Somebody who was pregnant too, right?
Correct, exactly. So a lot of that kind of work. We would try to come up with ideas ourselves on different avenues to approach to try to just dig up leads. But one of the things we realized pretty soon was that we were going to have to keep this case alive in the eyes and the ears of the public. We had to keep him alive. And I know, going back to the scene, I promised him that we would find the mother. We would find out what happened to him. I made that promise. So I along with Bob and others, wanted very much to fulfill that promise. But as we have learned, Keri Mazzuca didn't tell anybody, and I think without technology, it would have been very difficult to solve this, if not impossible.
Yeah, let's fast forward then. The turning point comes in the fall of 2020. COVID is engulfing New York, and it was about 7 years after you had retired from the department. And a lieutenant in the department, is my understanding, Josiah Jones, had picked this case out of just randomly to be presented to the Cold Case Analysis Center at the College of St. Rose. And that was a partnership with the police department, where the college's cold case program, as I understand it, were very good at like organizing case files, sort of taking a fresh look at a case and whether there was something that was missed, whether something could be re-examined or find a lead that hadn't been run out. To their benefit, former FBI Special Agent Dave Fallon, who had been working at the center as an advisor, had suggested to them, had anyone ever run the baby's DNA through the FBI DNA lab for a DNA analysis? Because by this time, right, the system now has 20 million DNA profiles that had been gathered since the early 90s. And there's also these, people do genetic testing, and that can be compared to that. Long story short, it takes a while, I think almost 2 years, in fact, but they get a hit. They get a lead, and the lead sends them to a little town down in Delaware County, New York, about 70 miles from Albany. From that, as Fallon had explained to me last year or early this year, I guess it still takes a ton of work, because now you have a DNA profile, but you have to figure out who in a family, and families can be spread around the country and even around the world, who in that family might be a person of interest in this case. And ultimately, through scouring some trash, or I guess through figuring out the age of one of the members of that family, which was Keri Mazzuca, a 52-year-old Guilderland mom who is divorced and has a son and a daughter, and would have been about 25 years old at the time that baby was born, and had been living in Albany, 5 blocks west of Washington Park. And so now I'm sure that you wish you could have been part of the investigation at this point. And but at some point they give you a heads up, right? They tell you that through DNA testing her garbage that they took from outside the residence, that they had zeroed in on Mazzuca, or at least that they had someone, right, that they were interested in.
Yes, I did get word of that.
And last September, they finally gathered enough information. They got a sealed indictment charging Mazzuca with second-degree murder, and that was about a week after they brought her to a police station for questioning. And she didn't ask for an attorney. She was interviewed for hours in a videotaped interview that the Times Union recently published excerpts of that you can see on our website. And it was very disturbing, as she admitted, pretty much said, "I did it." And what was your reaction to seeing Mazzuca confess to this crime, for which she was recently pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 25 years in prison, but watching her let it all out after all these years? What was your reaction to seeing this case finally solved?
So my wife texted me today, my wife Marie, and said, "Hey, there's in the Times Union, there's a there's video clips of Mazzuca confessing. And so I was able to access that from my job. And I was in my office, by myself, and at first I read the story, and then I had an opportunity to see some of that published video. I got that lump in my throat. Like it was difficult, and it kind of like all came back, at least for me, back to 1997 and all the efforts so many people had put through. But it was very it was disturbing. It was I noticed that Keri Mazzuca was referring to baby Moses as it, and that was troubling to me, because he's not an it. He was a beautiful baby boy.
I know some people had questioned when the judge recently sentenced her to 25 years whether it was too harsh. But after watching her on that video, do you now maybe not second guess that judge and what he determined?
I have to say that I was one of the people surprised by the length of the sentence. And I guess over the years I had imagined baby Moses' mother as somebody struggling with the decision that was made over all of these years. And in my mind, I thought, like, I imagined, every day being difficult and always having that memory of what took place and what she did on her mind. But after watching those clips of the interview, I didn't get that at all. And that was surprising to me, because, imagination and reality, there was that disconnect. I was expecting that relief that comes with carrying a burden for all of those years, as difficult as we all assumed that must have been. And yet that's not the impression I got, unfortunately, watching that video today.
You can see video of Keri Mazzuca's confession and read more about the baby Moses story on timesunion.com. That's it for this week. We will be back next week with more from inside the newsroom. The Eagle is a production of the Times Union. It's produced and edited by myself, Jessica Marshall, with help from Erica Smith and the Times Union digital team. Our music is Flyin' by Top Floor. Special thanks this week to Sara Tracey and Brendan Lyons for their contributions to this episode. Do you have questions or comments about the Eagle or any of the podcasts that we produce here at the Times Union? Go ahead, email us at podcast@timesunion.com. We want to hear from our listeners.